Hello little buns, hello everyone, my name is Indiana. My name is Stef Sanjati and welcome to my home. Today I am very lucky and very thankful to be sponsored by Bethesda. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, Bethesda. We are creating an Indiana Jones and the Great Circle inspired makeup look and sort of costume fit situation to celebrate the launch of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which will be available to download on Xbox and PC as of December 9th. When Bethesda approached us with this opportunity, I was really excited at the prospect of a femme Indiana Jones character. And I was like, let's do it. Let's grab it. Let's do some glamour. Let's do a little bit of cosplay elements. Let's make it happen. And together, my boyfriend Travis and I, who we collaborate on everything together, put this outfit together, devised this glam, and we made it happen. I was very inspired by the setting of the game. 1937 is the time period. And I go into a lot of detail about this in the video, but the time period is really, really well portrayed in terms of accuracy. And I wanted to do something similar with the makeup, so I went to reference images of makeup from that time period for women, and I took inspiration from it. It's not a perfect replication, just because, you know, I gotta play a little bit. As well, this video contains my thoughts on the game itself. I stand by absolutely everything I say in this video. I had an absolute blast getting to play the game for several hours today before starting the recording of the video. I had so much fun and I cannot wait to dive back in. So throughout the video, I'm gonna talk to you about different sort of top line gameplay features and big concepts, the setting and whatnot, but I'm also gonna walk you through my specific experience playing the game, highlights and things that I noticed, and the things that I enjoyed the most, what made it really fun for me. I hope you enjoy hearing from me about this. There's also going to be a lot of footage from my time playing the game interspersed throughout, so you're going to get a lot of perspective on the game and why you should check it out. Be sure to click the link in the description to go and look at the game for yourself after you've finished watching the video. I'll remind you later. Again, don't worry. If you watch the full video, you're not going to forget. Just stick around for a tutorial on this look to learn more about the costume and to learn more about the game. Let's get into it. Thank you for joining me today. First things first, we got to talk about skin prep and a little bit of baseline information about the game. When it comes to skin prep, it is winter right now. It's early December as of me recording this video. I got to moisturize, all right? Especially because Indiana Jones, listen, as a woman that's worked on set for film and TV, you look at Indiana Jones, that man is hydrated, all right? There is a spray bottle of water nearby, so he's always looking glistening. So I got to try to get that somehow. I'm going to wear a primer. I always wear a primer under my makeup that's going to help it sit nicely and last as well for a while. Like if I was going to wear this sort of cosplay look to, say, a convention or to an event, I'd want to make sure it's staying in place. And I like to be pretty generous with my application of primer. You don't prep proper, the look isn't going to come together or stay together the way we want. Now, let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is a first-person single-player adventure game where you play as the one and only Indiana Jones while immersing into the 1937 setting, while solving puzzles, uncovering secrets, foiling dark plots, and traveling the world. It very much is intentionally evocative of the films. If you grew up with the films or you like the films or just like the vibe of a good adventure, this is going to scratch that itch for you so well. It really is faithful to the films and the general aesthetic and cinematography and themes of Indiana Jones in terms of music, soundscapes. Like it's just so well done. It's so well put together. I have a ton of respect for the people that put together those like game development documents and were like, here's all the things you got to get right, because they nailed it. I am woo. In terms of timeline, the game takes place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. As I mentioned earlier, the year is 1937 and dark forces are scouring the globe in search of ancient treasure and power, connected to something called the Great Circle, which is the great mystery of the game. I'll say the amount that I've played so far, I haven't even encountered whatever the Great Circle is. Indiana Jones hasn't muttered the words, which to me is exciting. You know, because I like a slow burn mystery. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't really mind, but I'm a big fan of puzzles and mystery. That's what I was really hoping for a lot of out of this game. So I'm looking forward to learning more about what the Great Circle is and how all these different artifacts and locations are connected to it. As Indiana Jones, we're going to travel the world and visit really cool, iconic locations like Marshall College, where Indiana teaches. You can go to his classroom. You see his office, like you walk around in it. It's really cool. I also got to see the Vatican so far, sort of outskirts of Vatican City, and then there's like, you know, secret passages to get into the city. And I am anticipating locations like the pyramids of Egypt, the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and the sunken ruins of Sukhothai. So I'm not sure what to expect with those yet, but very iconic locations from the films and of course just from our real world. And they're recreated in such stunning detail and attention to time period. Because again, this is set in the late 30s. This is not modern day, and it feels like it. Really, really well done. Now I'm going to do a little bit of concealer around the eyes. I want to look like I'm not wearing a ton of makeup because I'm trying to evoke both woman of 1937 and a little bit of like F exclamation mark Indiana Jones, you know, a little bit of femme indie, if you know what I'm saying. I'm going for adventure and glamour. Not 100% sure yet if I want to do like some fake dirt, look like I was in a scuffle. I don't know. We're going to find out. Either way, let's talk about some of the top line gameplay features in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We've got things like a stealth and combat system. These are very intertwined. You basically will have the opportunity to choose whether you want to approach a situation with stealth or brawling kind of combat, or a little bit of both. And I found I was switching between them like rapidly in the gameplay. It's very natural. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a well-made sort of balance. More on that later though. This is primarily a narrative-driven experience with a mixture of linear story sequences and sort of open area exploration. And the areas that I have explored, there's been a lot of opportunity for me to wander and kind of make choices about how I approach situations while I'm being given a lot of story information through things like collectibles, and then of course cinematic sequences that bridge maybe environments or transitions between areas. Throughout the game, you get a good combination of stealth infiltration gameplay and the aforementioned brawling combat. It's first person, and we'll use these things to sneak and fight and puzzle our way through the environments. One thing I find is communicated really well through gameplay features like stealth and combat and exploration is Indiana Jones' personality. There's that keen intellect, that cunning, and that sort of suave sarcasm that comes up constantly. I'm missing a brush, y'all. Oh my goodness. Stef Sanjati without her contour brush is like Indiana Jones without the whip. It's not going to happen. Like I was saying though, I feel like the gameplay intersects with Indiana's personality in ways that really add to the game and make you feel immersed and also just have fun. Like it's fun to listen to Indiana Jones quip one-liners while you knock someone out with like a shovel or something. He'll also make little comments when you pick up collectibles and whatnot. And I want to really reinforce to you, the exploration in this game is rewarding. This is something that I really value as a gamer when I approach a new game and there's any element of like open worldedness or even just narrative in general, right? My thought immediately is, okay, environmental storytelling and like how am I learning about this world in more ways than just being told directly about it? And you get a lot of that through the exploration, a lot of exposition and narrative, but also sort of rewarded with utility items like bandages for healing, food for a buff, even bullets for your revolver. You can find these things by going off the beaten path, in addition to finding, new ways to navigate the level or solve problems. So exploration is always a good idea. Now I'm gonna set my base, keep this makeup in place. There will be sweat as I parkour using my whip as a bungee cord. So we gotta set this stuff. We can't have it coming off mid-parkour. Not when I'm running from a boulder. Now, we've done the base of the makeup, and I've kind of gone over the base of the game as well, and now I'm going to tell you about my personal experiences playing this game. Spoiler alert, I was impressed, and I want to keep playing. While I continue with the glam application, let me tell you why. First and foremost, what I want to let y'all know, and I probably mentioned this during the intro, is I'm going to try to aim for a look inspired by the time period that the game is set in, which is 1937, so late 30s, early 40s, had a similar makeup style that carried through. And that style of makeup was actually really influenced by the war times. Cosmetics factories, along with pretty much every other factory, was producing things for the war effort, like ammunition, for example. So we were pretty much limited to one color product for the whole face. So women would use the same rouge or lipstick or blush item on their lips, their cheeks, and their eyelid. We're gonna go with a similar color in all three areas. We're gonna keep it really red on the lips for that high glamour touch, but I'm gonna keep it kind of brick in the other areas. We're gonna see how it comes together. I might deviate a little bit. I'm not going 100% faithful, but I do want to honor the fact that the developers and the artists behind this game put a ton of effort into making the setting feel really believable and true to the time period. I can't tell you how immersive it is. It is so well done. I'm going to talk about the immersion in a bit while I go through my experience with this game, because that was one of the top points for me. That said, I'm going to get started with my eyes with an eyelid primer, and then I'm going to start doing some eyeshadow stuff. Let's talk about the gameplay. First thing that I thought was great was the intro sequence of the game was actually the scene with the idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. You enter the ruins with your guides. Ultimately, maybe I don't spoil it, but the guides, do they leave with you? I don't know. I can't say. Either way, it was really cool reliving and re-experiencing from the driver's seat that really iconic Indiana Jones movie moment. And I think it's a great way to get people that are familiar with the films, even in the most basic level, really hooked into the game and into the story. It just gets you in the Indiana Jones vibe and mindset immediately. And something else I thought was cool, you are thrown into the game instantly. Something really unique about this game, I haven't seen this in anything else. The main menu is basically your load file. How do I describe this? When you start a new game and you press story, the main menu basically just zooms into Indiana's perspective and you're in. There's no loading screen. There's no moment of like, okay, let's start a new game now. Here we go. You're starting a new game. It just puts you right in the eyes of the character. Similarly, when I logged out or when I quit at the end of my gaming session, the main menu just kind of appeared over where I was standing. I think it was a checkpoint, like I stopped at a checkpoint. I just left Indiana's body. And when I resume my play session, I'm just going to zoom right back into his eye sockets. It's seamless and it's really, really cool. I've never seen a game do that. I think the intention there and what I receive from it is that you're going to get right back into the action, right back into the cinematic experience of it. Big points for finding a way to just like literally pull me into the eyes of the character and put me in the driver's seat. Psychologically, that's working, okay? Still in the intro sequence, while I'm exploring the jungle with my tour guides, I realize I can go off the path a little bit. The tour guides go a specific way, but out of the corner of my eye to the left, I caught what looked like a structure in the distance, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go over there. My tour guides did not follow me, but when I got there, Indiana Jones made a little quip about, the structures indicate a certain historical fact, and the temple must be nearby, basically. And when I was there, I found a couple of collectibles that I picked up. There was information about them. Indiana Jones commented on each of them. And then later, when I happened to be in Indiana Jones' office, later in my sort of play experience, those artifacts appeared there because I collected them earlier. So my character had brought them with me. It was a cool, rewarding thing to see them there. And I have to wonder if that's going to happen again later in my play experience. I imagine I'll go back to my office at Marshall College. Will my collectibles that I find on my adventures return with me? I'm going to bet they do. After the Raiders of the Lost Ark intro kind of sequence, I am brought to Marshall College. And this is done in such an interesting way. There's this moment where Indiana Jones is in peril during this intro sequence, and he starts to hear this memory of Marion, who you might remember from the Indiana Jones franchise as a love interest of Indy. He wakes up from a nightmare. He's remembering this in his dream, this Raiders of the Lost Ark sequence. It's storming. One of his friends is with him. I'm sure this character I should know. My memory's a little fuzzy, but I love him. He's charming and adorable. Through the storm and your liquor, you didn't hear there's an intruder, there's heavy footsteps. So you go through Marshall College, you're taking it all in, it's really cool. You're in Indiana's office, you can kind of explore and find additional collectibles along the way. And all the while, I'm hearing this creepy whispering get louder, and I think, is that the wind? Is that the storm? As I go through the halls of Marshall College, eventually I am in a room with a glass roof, and the rain hitting the glass roof, the sounds, oh my goodness, it's like they're real. I felt transported. The sound design in this game, I cannot say enough good things about. It is so well done. And I think this was also aided by the fact, or perhaps enhanced by the fact, that I was wearing a headset. It was just really considered. Everything about the sound detail felt really considered. When I walked near a clock, like a grandfather clock with a little pendulum, I could hear the ticks, and sometimes it would overlap with the music in such a way that felt intentional, like you might see in a film where the music overlaps with the sound effects and it creates a certain feeling or communicates a theme. It felt like the game was doing that. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it felt good enough that I'm going to say it was. Something neat that I encountered here was my first map pickup, and this happened again later in the game. So when you encounter a new explorable area, you don't have a map right away because you're somewhere unfamiliar. And you'll find a map in the environment, which Indy will then put in his journal. And to check the map, you literally lift it up and you have to look down with your character perspective so you aren't seeing what's behind you. It's not a user interface element. Your map is an object, just like your journal, your notes. It's all contained in this in-game item, this object, which is, again, very immersive and very cool. So you don't have a map till you find it, and then you're looking down at it, which was something I actually wanted to happen. When I first was making notes about what I'd like to see in this game, one of the things I said specifically was I would love to be able to reference objects and notes in the game in a way that is, I don't know how I worded it, but almost like obstructive. Hear me out. I like it when a game replaces a user interface with an immersive action. So rather than the map being a mini map in the corner that I glance at, looking down at a map to see where am I in this building, where am I in this environment, that is cool. I really, really like that. It adds a ton of style. And again, it's very immersive. And I really value immersion in my games, can you tell? Continuing on this thread of immersion, during my exploration of Marshall College, I found the most mundane room imaginable, the janitorial closet. And I literally stopped in my tracks and I was like, wow, this janitorial closet is so cool. It's so interesting. I peeked inside. I looked at the signs on the wall. Every piece of art on the wall, every sign with words, every official notice document on the wall, you can stop and read. In the museum part of Marshall College, you can read the exhibits. They have full information. None of it is press X to read a menu that comes up. It's like you literally approach it and you read it. The notes do have text that you can read for accessibility purposes. That's really important and I appreciate that. But I also really appreciate in the environment text being readable at a glance. Like you walk up to it and you look at it and that's how you interact with it. I think that's really cool. This janitorial closet though is when I first clued into the fact that this is so true to detail and attention for the time period. I felt like I was in a 1937 janitor's closet. I don't know how else to describe it. I felt like I was getting a glimpse at the past. I felt lucky to be seeing it in such great detail. I've played a lot of video games and I just haven't seen this much attention to detail with a time period setting in such great fidelity with such cinematic thought. I'm impressed. I really like it. Something that I thought was really cool and made me think, okay, you guys really care about this. You care about me feeling good about this game. You care about me wanting to be in this world. Was I, at a certain point in the intro sequence, just decided I was going to go counter objective. I was going to walk up the stairs instead of going down a hallway. And I found the environment kind of loops in on itself. So there's different ways you can get around an area. And I found this repeated later in areas with a lot of threats and stealth required. Like there's lots of ways to get from point A to point B. There's usually 3 or 4 ways you can get from point A to point B and back. In doing this in this Marshall College environment, I ended up stumbling upon Indiana Jones' classroom, which I would never have found if I just followed the quest marker on the map. I really liked that. I was rewarded by finding Indiana Jones' classroom with some items and with a collectible and some character dialogue that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't decide I was going to just go, live by the beat of my own drum and go left instead of right. And that was rewarding. It felt rewarding. I really liked it. It was really cool to see Indiana Jones' classroom and walk into it, go between the seats, look at the notes on his desk. What was he writing on the chalkboard? It was just all there in stunning, really, really true detail. I really liked it. Now, I finished up in Marshall College. My character, of course, Indy, was sent, onward on his adventure, spurred to explore. But something I really picked up on immediately was the concern Mr. Brody, the supporting character, had for Mr. Protagonist, Indiana. Immediately, I'm greeted with this emotional theme that Indiana is going to be processing, which is, you can't just run away from your problems, Indiana. And he says, watch me. And the theme song plays and Brody smiles fondly like, I can't stop you, man. Gonna do what you're gonna do. But you can tell Indy's got some heartbroken feelings about this woman, Marion. He's torn between pursuing love and pursuing his absolute fascination and obsession with, conflict and also artifacts and history and archaeology. He's doing some cool things, but also clearly avoiding his problem. And I felt like it was pretty clear based on the character interactions. We're gonna see more of that personality and dynamic coming through. Every side and supporting character I saw interact with Indiana Jones felt acted really well. There was an emotional throughput. Later, I met a character who became emotional because Indiana brought him a gift. At first glance, I'm like, why would this be the gift you give? But the character responded really emotionally, and I was like, oh, of course. I can see why this would be important to you. So I think that the supporting characters and the acting, I was really impressed with that. I thought it was really, really well done. It made me care a lot about the characters that I met, and I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried about one of them. I'm like, are you going to live? Are you going to live? Because all the soldiers that I went through to get here didn't. So no reason for me to believe that you're going to be fine. I'm invested. I am going to take a little break from the eyes to do my brows while I talk to you about the next location I got to go to in my playtime, which was the Vatican. Now, I didn't get into the Vatican itself. That is my objective. I didn't get that far. I don't know if that happens or not. No spoilers, because I don't even know. Basically, I was finding a secret way into the Vatican and meeting up with one of my friends, Antonio, a priest of Vatican City. And Vatican's not doing so hot. There's some insurgents. There's some occupation happening in Vatican City, and it's not cute. But what I can say is I loved walking around that Italian environment. The environment and the detail there, it was completely different from the environments I'd seen so far. Great attention to detail, and some really cool gameplay things happened here. I had my first fist fight after a failed stealth attempt. I didn't even see the man, but he saw me and he said, what are you doing here? And then I knocked him out and hit his body behind a Jeep. Sorry. I was pretty scared. I was like, I don't know how hard the combat's going to be in this game. I do love a stealth game. I'm all about stealth, and this game does it really well. Let's talk about that, actually. Right off the bat, when you are starting a game, you can set your combat, stealth, and puzzle difficulty. So the difficulty in the game is really customizable. If you are good at combat and you really want to challenge yourself, you can set that really high. And if you struggle more with the puzzles, you can set that to be a little bit easier. And all of these settings are changeable at any time during, like in the menu. You can just pause, go to the menu, go to the options, and change these gameplay settings in a lot of detail. You can tweak individual settings. I found on moderate difficulty, which was basically like it's the equivalent of normal difficulty, I found the combat and stealth to be not very challenging for me, but I am a very experienced gamer, so I thought it was an appropriate level of difficulty. Next time I play, I'm going to increase it. But let's talk more about the stealth, because it's really cool. It's a very kinetic system. You're able to sort of peek behind corners. You just hide behind the corner and peek behind it to see, if somebody's there, then you hide back, right, if you need to. So a lot of ability to see the guards moving around the environment, see their paths, and plan your mode of action. Your best way to deal with an enemy is to use objects in the environment. You do have Indiana's trusty whip. You can like whip a weapon out of an enemy's hands, for example, or stagger them with it. But what I like to do is pick up objects in the environment and whip them with great force at people. It's great fun. So these are things like bottles, brooms. I used a shovel once. I used a rake. That was fun. I was able to pick up a giant statue off of like a pedestal, but it was really heavy and Indiana couldn't carry it very long. He started passing out, so I had to drop it. And I didn't find anyone to throw it at before I had to put it down. So I can't speak to the combat ability of the giant statue, but the rake was great. Would recommend. With the stealth, I had a lot of options of, okay, am I gonna, go left, go right? Am I hiding behind these boxes? Am I gonna distract someone by throwing a bottle in the other direction and have them go search for it? There was a lot of sort of choice there, which was cool. What I usually ended up doing was grabbing the nearest object, determining the NPC's path, and when one of them was isolated, I would sneak up behind them and discover what creative way Indiana used the object to knock a person out. And like I said, I got to experience a lot of different ones. I think the rake was my favorite. I'm pretty sure there was some like between the legs from behind action, like rake up and then he turns around and then smacks him with the other end of the rake. It was great, very satisfying. There was one particular moment where I was sneaking around upstairs and there was guards below me that I was intentionally trying to avoid by going upstairs. And one of them found a body that I'd left behind. Oops, my bad. I guess I didn't hide it well enough. And they started looking for me. And so I snuck ahead into another room and I grabbed a crutch because it was like a medical room, I guess. So I had this crutch in my hand and a man appears in the doorway and scares me because I'm expecting them to come from the other direction. So I reflexively whipped the crutch at him and then ran up and punched him in the face. And that was a lot of fun, but I felt true panic and it was exciting. It was fun. It was great. While I'm running around having panicked moments and learning about different creative ways to use broomsticks and wrenches and stuff like that, I end up finding a book because I'm looking for my notes. I love collecting the collectibles and getting these adventure points and stuff. I didn't know what they were used for though until I found this book. So I picked up this book and it said basically that I could unlock a skill. Now that I had this book, I could unlock a skill using my adventure points. And adventure points are what you are rewarded with every time you pick up a collectible, like a note or a letter or an artifact. You get some adventure points. I found in the Vatican City first sort of adventure area that I was in 3 different books that I could unlock skills with using my adventure points. And these affected different things. Like I think one of them was that if I knocked out an enemy, I got some stamina back so I could have more energy to keep on like fighting or carrying something heavy or whatever it might be. What was interesting was I noticed immediately I had 2 categories of skills. After finding these books, I had unlocked the survival category and the brawling category. And I have to imagine there's more categories than that. You only discover what the categories are called as you discover the books to unlock the skills. And you don't discover those books unless you decide you're going to explore and go off the beaten path. And I think, again, I want to reiterate, the exploration in this game is rewarding for that very reason. You're going to find something useful, whether it's an item you can use in your immediate circumstances, or maybe a skill that's going to affect your long-term gameplay. And I think that's really cool. I really appreciate that. Something else that struck me was I came out onto this ledge overlooking part of Vatican City as I'm like running from the guards and trying to move through the environment. And Indiana sort of mentions like great views or something. He's like, oh, great view here.
Nice view.
And it reminded me to stop and take in the environment. I looked over the city. The moonlight was shining over the area. You could see reflections in the water down below, you know, light from the city in the distance. It was really cool. It was beautiful. And again, I just really enjoy when Indiana makes these little comments. What's interesting, and again, a point to the sound design, is when Indiana speaks, there's this deep, low bass to it, which his voice has, but it makes it feel, with my headset at least, like it was coming from inside me. The way that when you speak with your voice, at least if you speak in a really low register, it's in your chest, you know what I mean? I can't even do it anymore. I can't. But when you speak with a really low register and you feel it in your chest, I felt that listening to Indiana speak. So every time he makes a comment about the environment or about something you find, you are paying attention because you can feel the voice. It's very interesting. It's really well done. At the same time, other characters' dialogue sounds distinctly different. It sounds farther away from you. It doesn't have the same resonance and bass that the internal monologue of Indiana has. I don't think I've played another game that has done that. I found that really, really interesting. It made me feel very embodied in Indiana's perspective and form while I was moving through the game. Definitely noticed the view there. So thank you. Thank you, Indy. I want to tell you about another funny experience I had, because this game can be funny. Like, the combat and the stealth can be really rewarding in that the actual playing it is fun. Like, something funny can happen. The crutch example was one really good one. Another one was I was sneaking up on a man that was sitting at a fireplace. He was facing the fireplace. He wasn't going to see me because I'm a pro, all right? But I was sneaking up on him and I grabbed, I think it was a coal shovel maybe, like just shovel hot coals out of the fireplace, and I went to go strike him in the back of the head. I didn't realize the chairs were destructible. So not only did I knock the man out, I exploded the back of the chair. I jumped, I was scared. And then I went to go look at him and I realized there's all these liquor bottles around him. I think he was passed out. I didn't have to do that. But then I was like, okay, I was a little ticked off at this man for scaring me. But mostly, I just wanted to see what would happen if I threw a bunch of empty bottles at him while he was knocked out. And so I did that. And it was funny. And I don't know, it was funny. I just liked it. Every environment you walk through, like especially in the Vatican, I don't know if it's going to be every area, but there was just wine bottles everywhere. And I kept getting this feeling like if I was cornered by a bunch of these guys and they were coming at me fast, I could just grab the bottle and throw and grab the bottle and throw, and it would be hilarious. And I want to try that. I want to experience that. I was not expecting how much I loved the environmental weapons. They just work. They work really well and they're hilarious. They're great. It also feels really satisfying when you kind of pull one in a clutch moment and like save yourself, or it just feels really creative and reward. I just love it. I really like it. Based on my experience so far, expect to get what I want out of the game, which is that really fun, immersive adventure experience, looking into notes and maps and collecting things to get more information to solve puzzles. I did solve one puzzle in the Vatican that was pretty cool. I found a secret passage by following a note that talked about certain imagery at a certain time, and then I found another note somewhere else that mentioned cleaning up around a certain passageway near something. And I went and I put those clues together, and I found the secret passage, and then I got a big dose of adventure points. First of all, so rewarded for exploration and puzzle solving. That's optional because I could have found another way to get to where I was going, and I did, but by following that puzzle and solving it, I got additional rewards, and that was fun. Now I'm going to do my lips, and I want to honor the setting, the time period of 1937, that late 30s, early 40s. I want to do a brick red lip. It might not be perfectly brick. We're going to try it. I'm not the best at red lips, so I'm going out on a limb here. I'm trying something. I'm being bold and adventurous like Indy, okay? Wish me luck. Cross your fingers. Cross your whip, whatever you got. I mean, it's beautiful color. Did I do it? I think I might have done it. Y'all, that was as hard as an Indiana Jones puzzle. I think we got it. Just trying to think about, is there anything else that I can do to Indiana up this look? I mean, I've got the whole costume ready. Maybe it's time to get into costume. There is one essential thing every Indiana Jones needs. Can you guess what it is? Comment below with what you think every Indiana Jones needs, and we'll see if you're right in just a minute. One last tip I'm gonna make. Early in this video, I mentioned the Indiana Jones makeup artist sweat bottle so that, you know, always looking glistening on set. I have a secret weapon for that. All right, you see that? You wouldn't know I wasn't running through a jungle. All right, all that said, let's look at my essential props. I got a few little surprises for you. You've probably already seen it because you watched the intro, but shh, it's a surprise right now, okay? First essential costume piece for Indiana Jones is the perfect hat. We found such a good match. Essential. That's number one. I also have an adventure satchel. Absolutely essential. Where are you gonna put your snacks? It's gotta go in the satchel, all right? Snacks and other, you know, maybe an important document or two, but mostly snacks. Just gonna put this one on. I think Indy wears it crossbody, like sort of like that. And then last but certainly not least, you gotta have the whip, all right? You gotta. My wonderful boyfriend tied it up with a little Velcro thing in the exact formation that Indy holds it, because he's got it like this, you know, then he like unravels. It's great. So between the three of these props, I think we're ready, but come on, I'm gonna get the full costume on. C'est voila! I'm all done, I'm all put together. I got my whip, I got my hat, and I got my adventure satchel, including the idol, because you know, Miss Femme Indy is not going to be asking anybody to throw the whip in exchange for the idol, because I've got both. I'm prepared. It's all going to be fine. Everyone's going to live, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in to watch this Indiana Jones and the Great Circle inspired makeup look. I hope you can use this in some way, maybe for some indie inspired cosplay, for a themed party, or just for the vibes. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had a relaxing time, and I hope you loved learning about the game, because it is worth it. It is so much fun. And if you love the cinematic experience of video games and you love Indiana Jones, it's a no-brainer. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is now available to download on Xbox and PC. If you liked anything you saw here today, I would really appreciate it if you would use my link in the description box to go check it out for yourself and see if you're gonna get yourself an Indiana Jones adventure. Huge thank you again to Bethesda for sponsoring this video. Huge thank you to you for watching. If you wanna catch me elsewhere, you can find my links in the description, including Twitch, where I'm live as often as possible, either by myself or doing co-op streams with my boyfriend Travis. I'm also pretty active on Instagram, where we're always posting cool photos of gaming-inspired makeup, sometimes events, gaming events that we get to go to, cool things like that. So follow me in those places. I'll see you around. I really appreciate your company. And until next time, just remember, adventure is out there. Let's go and get it. Thank you so much. Bye. Hands are full.